My name is Annalisa L. Riccio, and I'm a student at Southern Connecticut State University. I'm a senior psychology major and a future counselor of LGBT youth because I believe that some of the best, most meaningful forms of activism start by helping people, particularly oppressed people, realize their self-worth. Understand that they are valuable people, that although our government and some of our churches and some of the communities where we live don't approve of us, they say we're not human, tell us from the time we're young that there's something wrong with us, or that we are something to be reluctantly tolerated, but ultimately less than, deserving a shoddy version of so-called equality. These are the kind of people I hope to reach someday. But today, this story isn't just about me. This is another story, a different story. In part, it's a story about me, and it's a story about my ex-partner, whose name I can't speak, whose identity I can't betray, whose picture I can't share with you, whose location must remain a secret, whose entire existence must be carefully concealed in the name of don't ask, don't tell. Because, you see, if I tell you my partner's name, there exists the possibility, perhaps the remote possibility, but a possibility to be sure, that word could get out. I'm not simply being paranoid here. We have media coverage at this rally, and like many of yours, most of my acquaintances network on Facebook, and we have mutual friends. And some of these mutual friends do not know that my ex-partner is gay and in a division of the United States military. And furthermore, if she is discovered by the United States military to be one of those homosexuals, through whichever avenue, it will signal the end of her career, the end of her livelihood, and the end of her future. My ex-partner's story is something to behold. She grew up poor. I can't tell you where she lived or where she lives now, but she grew up with very little to her name. Thankfully, she did well in school and went on to receive scholarships to help fund her college tuition. But that wasn't enough. She needed money and health care benefits, and so when she was still a senior in high school, she enrolled in a branch of the United States military. Today, she's in grad school. I can't tell you where. I can't tell you her major. I can't tell you her planned career path. But she's in grad school, and she's doing well, and all of her graduate school tuition, which is no small fee, has come directly from the military. If my ex-partner was to be dishonorably discharged today, she would be destitute. She would have no way of finding work because most people who are dishonorably discharged can't typically get entry-level jobs. Particularly in today's economy, finding a job would be a difficult, if not impossible, task for her. And under Don't Ask, Don't Tell protocol, when the United States military discharges you for being found out as LGBT, they can, and they will, revoke all of your money and health benefits. If my ex-partner were found out today, she would owe the U.S. military well over $100,000. Think about that, a $100,000 fine for being gay. Think about that, a life of poverty for coming out of the closet. Think about that, a life of lost, hard-won opportunities for being honest, for being true to yourself, for being true to your fellow soldiers, and for being a decent, virtuous human being. Now, my ex-partner is not without her own activist streak. When Proposition 8 passed a year and a half ago, she wanted desperately to protest against the unjust bill. One day, I remember she called me and said she wanted to attend a local rally. I said, "Can you do that?" She said no, but maybe I can go with a bag over my head. It didn't take me long to realize that, in part, she was being at least somewhat serious. And that's the other thing. I'll tell you how, back in those days, my ex-partner was scheduled for deployment. Again, I can't tell you where. I can't tell you which troop she served under, or where exactly she was slated to go. All I knew at the time was that my girlfriend, the person I loved, the person who knew me best, the person I cared about more deeply than I had cared about anyone, was going to a foreign place and endangering her life for her country. Put aside any personal opinions about war and try to imagine it. Try to imagine the fear and anxiety. So many thoughts tormented me. I worried that she'd come home psychologically scarred, or not herself, or unable to reacclimate to civilian life. While I acknowledged the reality of military service, I worried that she'd see unbearable atrocities and have no one to turn to. I worried that she'd be injured or hurt or worse. I worried I'd never see her again. And these concerns were very real, very intense, and very terrifying to me. As a partner of a woman serving in the military, I decided to seek opportunities for support and outreach. I soon realized that my options were limited. I couldn't attend a support group for military spouses or significant others, given the risk of accidentally outing my ex-partner. It was hard to believe that because of don't ask, don't tell, I could jeopardize my partner's career simply for seeking emotional support at a time when we both desperately needed it. And then, furthermore, I had to contemplate the horrible idea that in the event my partner was injured or killed, I would be one of the last to find out. If my partner passed away overseas, who would allow me the right to know first and foremost? Who would allow me the right to make funeral decisions? Who would acknowledge the dignity and reality of same-sex relationships? President Barack Obama, I call on you now. I call on you because we have a very narrow window of time to add don't ask, don't tell repeal language into this year's defense authorization bill. You know, and we know, that time is of the essence. Mr. Obama, I voted for you in 2008. Like most of the country, I believe that you held the keys to change. Like many of my fellow LGBT brothers and sisters, I believe that you are the answer to years and years of homophobia, bigotry, and second-class citizenship. I thought you were qualified to take the reins of leadership in our struggle for civil rights. Mr. Obama, I am a hardworking and productive member of society. I am a law-abiding citizen. I help those in need. I give my all. And all I ask now is you do what in your heart you know is right. End discrimination. End workplace-instituted homophobia. End the idea that LGBT citizens are second class and that our relationships are somehow less meaningful than those of heterosexual couples. Mr. Obama, I'll never forget how, in the summer of 2008, you told our community point blank that you would be a fierce advocate for our rights. If that's the case, where have you been? Where are your morals? In 1948, against popular opinion, President Harry Truman integrated Black Americans into the United States military. The idea was highly unpopular at the time, and Truman felt the pressure from the overwhelming majority who believed that blacks were unqualified to serve beside whites. But Truman ultimately integrated the military racially. Why? Because he knew it was right. After all, Mr. Obama, as much as you try to pretend otherwise, as much as the United States military would like to tell us otherwise, we are real people with real concerns and real relationships. When our partners are left jobless, discriminated against, witch-hunted, humiliated, and thrown away, we feel their pain, we feel their helplessness, and we realize the injustice of it. Mr. Obama, you and the United States military do not get to decide who we love, who we come home to, who we mourn when we cannot say goodbye because we aren't acknowledged as a legitimate couple. We do.